Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about an organization which is continuously in news for past few weeks, that is the ECOWAS. Now, ECOWAS is an African organization which is planning to attack the Niger, which is another small country in the western part of Africa. So basically if the ECOWAS goes ahead with its decision to attack Niger, to intervene militarily in the Niger, it can lead to a new war in Africa. So we are going to discuss about what does the ECOWAS basically stands for, what is its mandate, and also overall the brief idea about the entire topic. So first of all, if you try to understand that what is the context in which we are discussing, in the context of which we are discussing this today's issue. So basically, if we talk about few weeks ago, in a small country called as Niger, situated in Western Africa, the President Muhammad Bazoum, who is currently the president, who was the president of that time in Niger, he was overthrown in coup by a military general by the name of Abdul Rahman Chiani. So Abdul Rahman Chiani, basically in what we can call as a coup, that is short form for coup d'etat. If you try to understand what does coup means, it means that any sudden violent overthrow of existing government, largely by the small group of people who mainly belongs to either the country's military or some sort of paramilitary forces, or even the we can say national police or state police. So in such kind of violent overthrow or violent coup, the President Muhammad Bazoum has been overthrown and has been basically put under house arrest. So along with difficult economic conditions, obviously that is also prevailing in this Western African nations. What has added to the concern for some, especially in the Western countries, if talk about in the France especially, the Nigerians are calling for assistance from Russia's Wagner Group. Now, Wagner Group is a kind of private military contractor of Russia who also has been engaged in exploiting the resources of Africa from various other smaller countries, and also was engaged in this in the war of Russia toward Ukraine. And thus, Wagner Group is led by Evgeny Prigozhin, who also has been accused of plotting a coup to overthrow the defense minister of Russia few months back. So apart from the expected international players such as Russia and the United States, the regional bloc ECOWAS has also, though it is economic community, it also has said that it will play a very important role and if possible intervene militarily in the Niger. So if we try to understand in more details that where is the Niger located. So first of all, if you look geographically where this area which we are talking about today, so obviously as we can see on the map, Niger is here. It is relatively a bigger country as compared to the nearby neighbors. We have Mali. Mali also actually was a member of ECOWAS, but there was a coup in Mali where also the power has been captured by the military leader, and thus it has been basically thrown out of the ECOWAS. Similarly, we talk about Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso also earlier was member of ECOWAS. There also we had a coup few months back, and then again Burkina Faso currently is also the dictatorship of a military general. So it also has been thrown out of the what we can say ECOWAS, and thus we can stand Burkina Faso, Mali, and now the trend continues. And now Niger, the capital is Niamey. It also has followed the same suite, and now it is under the control of a kind of military leader. And thus this entire region, if we talk about, this is where we have the ECOWAS countries. All these countries that is bordering these areas are a member of the ECOWAS. Now these regions is also, first of all, it is a good reserve. You will find good reserve of or huge reserves of various critical minerals in these areas. So that is also very, very important to remember here. Now if we try to understand about ECOWAS, that what has ECOWAS said in the context of the recent development. So regional bloc ECOWAS, basically ECOWAS stands for the Economic Community of the Western African States, as we have seen in the map there. It is largely a Western African grouping, and it has playing an active role since long period of time. However, the heads of state will meet today, that is on Thursday, to discuss their next step, that how Niger's military junta, who has defied their August 6th date. And basically what happened when coup happened and the president was ousted and the power in Niger was captured by the military ruler or military leader, the ECOWAS has given them a deadline of 6th August, and they said by the August 6th you need to reinstate the president and give the power back to the legitimate government. If you fail to do so, the ECOWAS will have no other option but to intervene militarily. Obviously, August 6th has passed and Niger's military junta, or we can say military leadership, has not complied with this deadline, and they still have controlled and retained the power. Especially they have been emboldened because the public is also largely supporting these coup leaders, because the situation, economic situation in this country was very bad, and they mostly blame France and other Western countries who have not helped them in a time of crisis, and thus they see that this new leadership, the military leadership, might be the solution for all their problems. So that is why also they are emboldened and are not willing to cede power so easily to the previous government. So basically the August 6th deadline has passed, and also the Nigerian soldiers now they fear that ECOWAS along with the help of France can intervene militarily, so they have closed the country's airspace, Niger's airspace. There is also an apprehension that ECOWAS may choose to thus intervene militarily, and that major decision, main decision about that will be taken today. Then further, if we talk about the ECOWAS itself, let us try to understand in briefly that what is ECOWAS. So first of all, the ECOWAS came into existence by Treaty of Lagos. Lagos is the capital of Nigeria, another major nation here. If you look at that, this is Nigeria. So in the Nigeria has capital Lagos. So the Treaty of Lagos 1975 led to formation of ECOWAS. It is a block of nations that is made up of 15 groups or 15 members. What are these nations? So these nations are given here. We have countries such as Benin, we have Burkina Faso, earlier it was the member, and we have Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone and Togo, and then Niger, that is the area of conflict right now. And this, all these countries that you are seeing shaded in blue are the member of the ECOWAS states. Thus, the major objective or major mandate of ECOWAS is, it is not a military grouping per se. It basically was formulated to promote the economic integration among the members, the 15 members of the Western African nation. And if you try to understand, they were trying to basically emulate the concepts and principles of something that we can call as European Union, and they wanted to create a similar kind of block like European Union in the long term for the Western African country. The problem is that the boundary of these countries, the border of these countries, has not been delineated by themselves. It was basically a colonial division that we call as scramble for Africa, and after that the division of the African states or African nation has happened as per the convenience of the colonial empire, and that is why there has been a lot of problem and issues in governance. There has been wide scale corruption, there has been exploitation of resources by few military groups and also few we can say military contractor groups. So they want to use the resources. It has a huge resource potential actually in the Western Africa. They want to use these resources to develop their own region, and that is only possible if they have some group where they can take decisions collectively rather than working individually. So that was the main objective with which basically the ECOWAS was established. Then if we talk about next, that what are the major objective of the ECOWAS. So as we have discussed, ECOWAS is also known by the other name of CEDEAO, which is actually the French term that is used for the ECOWAS. So it want to create a single common currency, as we discussed, on the line of European Union. We have this euro, and create a single large trading bloc, again like European Union, especially in areas such as industry, transport, telecommunications, energy, financial sectors, as well as in the social and cultural matter. And thus in a long or over a long period of time, it wanted to create a very well integrated, a borderless region. That means though there will be a lot of countries, but since if we talk about European Union today, we have a lot of countries in European Union, but they have a kind of borderless system. If you go to one country of Europe, you can easily move to any other country of Europe without going through all this passport control, immigration and all these kind of things. So similar kind of region they wanted to establish for the West Africa as well. And the most importantly, since Africa, since a very long period of time, has had a history of coups, it has a history of dictatorships, and thus this delineated in the Treaty of Lagos clearly that ECOWAS will function, the countries that are members of ECOWAS, they will value and uphold the principles such as democracy, rule of law, and good governance. However, if you talk about, though so many years has passed since the formation of ECOWAS, it has not been able to achieve its objective to the extent that it desired through the Treaty of Lagos in the beginning. But overall, this is what we can understand, the major themes or the major mandate and objective of ECOWAS that it stands for. Now, if you talk about the functioning of ECOWAS, so basically it also has an organizational structure. Like for example, if you talk about at the top, we have the authority of heads of state and government. Now, the authority of heads of state and government is basically the post is filled on a rotation basis by the presidents of each of the member state. And I talk about the current situation. Currently, it is the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is actually the main authority chairperson of the heads of state and government of the ECOWAS. And then you have a lot of different organizations, as you can see: Council of Ministers, Executive Secretariat, Tribunal, Specialized Commission. A specialized commission deals with the particular issues such as transport, communication, human resources, industry, and all such and that. And then we have the military, like we have Defense Council. Then we have Community Parliament, Economic and Social Council, Community Court of Justice. So basically, on a similar line as we see in the European Union, they are also trying to emulate the same principles. Now, apart from that, if we talk about the earlier rules, since ECOWAS has threatened that they can intervene militarily in the Niger, let us try to understand if there is any precedent for that or not. So first of all, if we talk about that, beyond the goals of economic cooperation, ECOWAS has attempted to quell military conflicts in the region. For example, it has created a special group that is called as ECOMOG. So ECOMOG basically was nothing but a kind of regional peacekeeping operation group that was led by Nigeria in 1990s and early 2000s. And where it has worked mainly, functioned mainly, so the answer is, if we talk about in the early 1990s, there is a small country called as Liberia, well known for its diamond mines, diamond reserves. So in Liberia, it was for the first time ECOWAS has intervened militarily and deployed ECOMOG in the deadliest civil war of Liberia. Then further in 1997, Sierra Leone, again very well known for its gold and diamond reserves as well as rare earth minerals. So in 1997, when the democratically elected government of Sierra Leone was overthrown in a violent coup, there also ECOMOG and ECOWAS-led military has intervened. Third, we talk about in the 2017, most recently, the Gambia was the country where the president, sitting president Yahya Jammeh, he refused to step down even after losing the democratically held elections that eventually led to the winner Adama Barrow coming in power. So there also, since the president refused to step down, the military intervention was done by the ECOWAS. So basically what we can understand that ECOWAS, as we have discussed in its charter, it basically has said that it will work on the principles and uphold the principles of democracy, rule of law, governance, and that is why no matter whether it is the coup that is happening by military or whether it is coup that is happening by military or whether it is the sitting president, if he do not want to exit from the power after losing the election, then in both cases ECOWAS has militarily intervened. It has sent its troop to other countries, like for example Liberia, Sierra Leone and Gambia. However, in the current situation, it has never sent its troop to the Niger, which is the current state of crisis. And coincidentally, if we talk about the main coup leader of Niger, who is General Chiani, he was actually previously served as a battalion commander for ECOWAS peacekeepers in the Ivory Coast when ECOWAS was intervening military for enforcing and ensuring peace there. So basically, what we can say, currently ECOWAS battalion commander is at war with the ECOWAS, or that is what we can understand how the situations has changed. Now, apart from this, if we talk about the reaction of the other countries, so basically try to understand the politics of this region. We have here Mali, then we have Niger and Burkina Faso. Now, Mali and Burkina Faso, they recently have successfully led the coup, and both of these countries, Mali and Burkina Faso, is actually being led by a military commander, military leader. So both of these countries are basically trying to support Niger because Niger is following their footsteps. And similarly, the other countries that are part of Western Africa, they do not want this system to go on. They do not want this same situation to occur in their countries. So that is why they also have a kind of a stake in preventing this coup-like situation to develop any further. And thus, the coup in this country is like why it has happened. Now, why the public is supporting this coup? So basically, it is observed by the expert that respective countries, if talk about in these countries the coup has happened, military leaders have pointed to the rising influence of terrorist forces. Actually, more than 1,800 terrorist incidences have happened in the last 6 months of this in this Western Africa, that has caused loss of life of almost 4,000 to 5,000 people. And thus, due to the rising issues of terrorism and also accompanying security challenges, worsening economic situation, they claim that the civilian establishment, they have failed completely to handle the situation, and that is why they need to be overthrown and new leader has to be installed. They also are critical at the same time of the Western role, especially the France, who was actually, the Niger actually in the earlier time was a colony of France. So they are also critical of Western role in leading efforts to solve such issues which are constantly failing. And thus, to support the current coup government or pro-coup leaders of Niger, the leaders of both Mali and Burkina Faso, they have sent their representative to Niger, and they have said that if ECOWAS is intervening or decides to intervene militarily, both this country will stand with Niger and fight against the ECOWAS forces. And it is in this context, both these leaders have also asked the support of Russia and especially the Wagner group to help them fight against the ECOWAS forces that might be supported by the Western powers, especially France. Now, what are the other available options or possibilities in future? So, problem is that if we talk about the first problem is that if you want to what I can say, you want to make any coup or coup related incidences or coup related actions unsuccessful, you need the support of public. The problem is public is largely supporting the coup leader. Also, long-standing measures of economic sanctions that has been imposed by the France on the Niger or ECOWAS in that case has been failed to work, especially in the short term. And as these countries are also dealing with the low economic growth, how can these sanctions help the situation is again something that is debatable. Second, France, which is a former colonizer of Niger, has cut off aid following the coup. Additionally, the presence of more than 2,000 troops that France and US has sent together has also irked some local, with the coup seeing anti-France graffiti and slogans, as you can see from the pictures here. So basically, now it has become a kind of situation, because this is happening in other parts of the world as well, where the pro-coup leaders are being supported by Russia to some extent, and we can say the civilian government who has that has been overthrown is being supported by the Western power along with the ECOWAS members, ECOWAS community of the Western Africa. So that is all about this particular topic. I hope you understood what is ECOWAS, what does it stand for, and what is the crisis like situation that is developing in the Niger. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.